Hello, I'm Ori, and I'm from the Center for Supporting Bureaucracy, which is part of the Empowering Clerks Network. It's an international organization issuing all sorts of official documents around the world. So far, we issued about 40,000 official documents, and we believe that one of the ways to heal some of the human suffering is through more paperwork and more bureaucracy. And therefore, we developed these forms. We have licenses and forms and permits and diplomas and stickers. Now, we're going to talk more about the forms later, but first, I want to tell you a little bit about my childhood. So, in first grade, I used to really enjoy writing. I wrote stories and journaling and whatever, and I always carried a yellow memo pad. And in one of my stories, it's in Hebrew, as you can see, I grew up in Israel. In one of the stories, I wrote a word that I heard somewhere, they screwed. And my teacher got really angry. So she sent me to the principal's office. And instead of going to the principal's office, I hid in the bathroom. And long story short, they sent me to the therapist. This was my therapist. And the therapist said that I'm bored in first grade and I should attend second grade, which I did, and it was okay. But I also lost the joy of writing that I had. It took me many years to go back to writing. Now, fast forward 20 years, I was one of the organizers of an art event in the market of West Jerusalem. And these two guys come there in the middle of the night and to a vegetable stand. And they asked me if I had a bad school year. And I told them about first grade. And they issued me a refurbished report card saying, I'm a great child, you shouldn't disturb me to develop the way I am. I'm going to the class of freedom, I'm not going to the class of boredom. And I was blown away by this experience, by this power that this object had, this piece of paper. This is a work I was doing back then. I helped about 200 people to write letters using vintage typewriters. So they dictated and I listened and offered suggestions if needed, and then they got to send the letter if they wanted. And I was trying to make something similar to the refurbished report card. And eventually I made a certificate of recognition in which me or we have more than 100 empowering clerks, interview people, and we ask them about what they like about themselves. And then we help them phrase one paragraph. And then we have the golden sticker and the date, and we find a witness. It's a whole legal process. And eventually we develop some more documents. Now, these are two girls from Phoenix, Arizona, who issued one another a True Friend diploma. And on the right, it's an OK Parent Award of a professor in Vassar College in Poughkeepsie. And she claims that she's not sure which one she's more proud of, her undergraduate diploma or her OK Parent Award. And this is an apology declaration, which helped save many relationships, including my own. Cloud visa, and we have karma certification. And the Joy permit is valid for 6 months. Once it's expired, you can renew it easily at supportingbureaucracy.org, or you can use whiteout. And these are stickers for good behavior. It's hard to see a little bit, but we have dealt with my emotions in a constructive way. Caregiver of the week, did you know I'm funny, and other stickers. We found that adults like stickers more than kids. We have to keep printing more and more of this. We have an open carry permit for musical instruments. And we have a file conversion service. These were emails converted to a scroll. Today I want to talk more about the Forgiveness License, which is a document that helped me the most. We have Forgiveness License Class A, which gives permission to forgive yourself and others, and Forgiveness License Class B is just to forgive others. That's the Compassion Exams, Form 61C. And over in the left, it's hard to see on the left, is a refugee from Sierra Leone applying for a Forgiveness License, and he described how he forgave the people who tortured him during the Civil War. On the right is an 8-year-old who described how good it feels in the body to forgive, and how she forgave her sister for hitting her. The Forgiveness License was inspired by Eva Kor Moses, a Holocaust survivor who forgave the Nazis. And she says, people who forgive are in peace with themselves. They don't want to start a war. Therefore, I call forgiveness a seed for peace. And she said, we can teach forgiveness. Around the same time I made the Forgiveness License, I also found a stamp of Adolf Hitler in an estate sale. And I remember holding the stamp in my hand and not knowing what I'm going to do with this stamp. I was perplexed. And the first piece I did with the stamp was Hitler apologizing, saying sorry in Hebrew. So at least he apologized. After he apologized, Hitler asked me to send him to the shrink. So I went to look and I found the same shrink that I had. And not surprisingly, Hitler was regularly beaten by his alcoholic father in his childhood. Now, after the therapy session, Hitler asked me to find a friend for him. So I looked and looked, and eventually, it took a while, I found him a friend, and these two had long conversations. And Stalin, too, was, not surprisingly, beaten even harder than Hitler as a child. He used to bleed, he used to have blood in his urine due to the heavy beatings that his father gave him. There are more dialogues, by the way, these two, there are 4 comics collections on the website, so you can read more. Now, these two also had some rough childhoods, but they managed to do some positive things with their lives, and they managed to help others. And I believe that through creativity and through dealing with the past traumas that we all have some of them, we can. This is one of the keys that make us do good things in the world. And Hitler tried twice to attend the art school in Vienna, and he was rejected. And I honestly believe that if he would find a way to express himself, the world would have been a better place now. And this is what I'm trying to do with all these forms. I'm trying to, through humor and satire, to help people to deal with their emotions and to express themselves creatively. Now, with this intention in mind, I went to a Trump rally in Poughkeepsie, and I issued joy permits and certificates of recognition to Trump supporters. And in the bottom is me providing empowering clerks training to the New York State Department. I send letters regularly to the US government. And you can read more on the website. This is Charlie Chaplin, my hero, who was deported from the US in 1952. Now, the Empowering Clerks Network is on a strike now, but I have joy permits for each and every one of you. And you can download all the documents at supportingbureaucracy.org, and you can establish your own ECN branch and issue faithful paperwork to your community. Thank you very much.